Hello, this is Growling Whispers. Today I would like to read some song lyrics from a band that is virtually unknown. I first heard of them in the late 80s, early 90s. Their name is Too New, that is the number 2NU. And they're most well known for a song called Ponderous. However, they have some incredibly beautiful flow of consciousness type lyrics and some very moving, deep songs. I am choosing 4 of them for this video. They are in the order that I am going to read them. 2 out of 3. A Father's Day, Her Name, and Frank's Chair. Before I begin, I would like to point out that none of this is my intellectual property. I am not looking for or accepting any money for reading any of these lyrics. And if any member of the band Too New hears this and would like me to take the video down, contact me. I will gladly do so. Thank you. And now, let us begin. There was a hummingbird just outside the glass that separated us from the rain. He looked in for just a moment and then flew away. I couldn't help thinking how simple his life must be. We sat quietly in the warm, swirling bubbles. I don't think I could have loved her more than at that very moment. There was this little bead of water that was making its way down her long, silky, wet hair. And I said to myself, if I can count to 10 before it drops, she'll love me forever. I barely got to 7 before it fell like a rock and ran slowly down over her bare shoulders and disappeared into the bubbles again. 2 out of 3. I must have been looking at her for a long time before I realized she was looking back, and that day in the rain was a million memories ago. The cafe was getting noisier. The coffee was getting colder. And finally, she began to explain why it was over. I couldn't believe it was actually happening. I was watching her talk, but I couldn't hear the words. I was dying inside. And she never looked more beautiful. Even after she was gone, I could still smell her perfume. I always would. I got up to leave and stepped out into the rain, stuck my hand in my coat pocket and pulled out the rose I had meant to give her. The wilted petals fell to the ground, and I counted them out, still trying to beat the odds. She loves me. She loves me not. 2 out of 3. Suddenly, the old man reached toward the sky with a look of bewilderment. Even though he knew this day would come, he never wanted to think about it. In an instant, he saw his life flying by, and he wondered, where had all the time gone? So many things left to do. Why now? Seemed like only yesterday he was a boy, without a care in the world. Kites and wagons, stickball and broken windows, long, hot summer nights under the stars with friends, telling tall tales about the adventures of their fathers. There was a bond there that it was hard for him to understand as a child. But as he grew older and watched his father set the example, it became very clear to him that a father was more than just a ferocious old bear sitting at the head of the table. Much more. He was a teacher, taught the kinds of things they don't teach in school, like the value of an honest day's work. A promise made is a promise kept. Taught the love of family. He was a healer, mender of broken knees and broken hearts. He was a builder of homes, futures. Most of all, Father was a dreamer. He learned they become dreamers when they become fathers. Starts first day. Small dreams of all the great things you'll accomplish. Then, as you grow up, dreams get bigger. That you'll come home safely every day. That your heart will never be broken. And that your life will be much easier than his. Then, sometimes at night, a father dreams of precious moments he may have lost along the way, working a little too hard to make sure your dreams come true. The old man smiled and began to remember the great moments in his life. His children's first birthdays, their first Christmases, their first loves, their first children. And even though none of them became president or invented anything earth-shattering to make the world a better place, he could see the results of what his father had taught him in them. And he knew he had done his job well. And because of that, maybe the world was a little better. He was proud. He only wished that he could tell them that one more time. Yeah, time had gone by a little too fast. But today was his day. He was a boy again, without a care in the world. I should have asked her what her name was. She looked up from her glass of wine, obviously quite bored with the conversation she was painfully being patient with. Our eyes met, and we both smiled that smile. You know, that smile that indicated we both really didn't know what we were doing in that group of stuffy, unrelated socialites. Before the evening took its toll with its reckless mediocrity, I finally approached her. I whispered softly into her ear, "I know a great place where it's illegal to be bored." She said she knew of a place more interesting than that, and I believed her. We drove away in quest of that fresh breath of life. Funny, there was not one word of conversation from the time I closed her door until the time we stopped at a quaint little establishment called Mildred's. The food was marginal. The wine was great. There was nothing overly romantic about our 4-hour conversation. She was reluctant to expose much about herself, but then I really didn't notice at the time. The chatter was bright, the atmosphere was extremely relaxing. Such a relief from the previous engagement hours earlier. The evening had come to an end before I realized it. As I dropped her off at an apartment complex about midway through the city, we didn't really say goodbye. We just kind of exchanged smiles. Then she gracefully headed up the stairs and disappeared into the darkness. As I drove the usual mindless journey I normally drove to my comfortable flat at the edge of town, I thought about her and the amazing comfort I found in her. A smile of thought spread across my face as I stuck my key into the lock. The smile quickly disappeared when I found that my key was not doing what it normally did, open the lock. After a half-hour struggle, I surmised that there simply must be something wrong with the lock. So I quickly used the car phone and called one of those poor, miserable souls who list their phone number under locksmith, 24-hour service. An hour later, he arrived with his hand out. Cash before service. About 30 seconds and he had my door open. I sent him on his way with a $5 tip, walked in the door, flicked on the light, and realized that I had either walked into the wrong house or someone was really messing with my mind. A quick search of the premises confirmed the right location. A quick search of the house confirmed something was terribly wrong. Nothing was mine, not even the paint on the wall, and earlier that evening I knew that I had owned more than just a simple wooden chair for furniture. A quick sweat formed on my brow, and my heartbeat began roaring like thunder. A strong, familiar scent filled my nostrils, and the suddenly haunting features of her striking face filled my mind. I'm glad it required just 3 digits to dial the police. Panic had set in like hot fire crawling up my spine. A lone car arrived a few minutes later with a couple of rookies who were doing their time on the late-night shift. While one of the officers took down a report, the other officer shuffled outside for a look around. A strange clock on the wall ticked away. For me, it sounded like the steady pound of a hammer on metal. The report finished, the officer was just about ready to head out the door when his buddy popped through, obviously trying to look controlled, but visibly shaken. His words spilled out with a stammer. He found a man outside the house, dead, with wounds in the back. Now I sit in an attorney's office, trying to put pieces of this huge puzzle together. I'm a suspect in the murder of a man I've never seen before. The inside of my house and the contents within have been exchanged for that of another human being. I think there is no such place as Mildred's. A strange lady's perfume and her image linger in my mind. That same lady, the one who suddenly appeared in my life, had suddenly become a very integral part of my life. That same lady could also be my alibi. But I never did ask her what her name was. Dusk is a very different experience in the pastoral, unblemished surroundings of the mountains. I truly believe there is no such thing as dusk in the city. Think about it. After spending your day in a society whose prevailing philosophy is, why create small problems when you can make a holocaust? Then you must navigate your way home in a society who maintains the same philosophy in their driving. No, there is no such thing as dusk in the city. I was sitting on the porch of an old, run-down cabin in a rocking chair that squeaked just looking at it, embracing the deep, unspoiled tranquility of dusk. Every sound was as sharp as broken glass. I could even hear the steam rise from the hot cup of freshly brewed coffee I held in my sore, blistered, virgin hands. The sun was setting on tall pines that reached their heads to the deep azure sky, dusted with wisps of ash orange. I was just about ready to put the light out on the big Cuban I was chewing on when I realized that the shadow working its way toward me wasn't a shadow. Now, I hadn't seen a soul in this neck of the woods all week long, although it wasn't that uncommon to see an occasional visitor mosey by with a friendly hi, a casual wave on their way to the top of the mountain. However, it was quite uncommon to see a lady dressed in a long, flowing white gown. Her deep, auburn hair shone bronze and gold in the setting sun, her eyes alight, like a fire staring at me from way inside her, like an animal looking out from the brush. Of course, I took this moment about as light-heartedly as a coronary, felt the deafening roar of silence inside me when she said, "Mister, you're sitting on my chair." Her sheer smoothness was alien, even intimidating. She grabbed my hand and led me inside the cabin. We walked to the large room I called the living room, and she pulled back an ancient rug to reveal a hinged door. The door led to a spiral staircase, and before I knew it, we stood at the bottom of the staircase, facing a remote, majestic chap in regal-looking boots and a double-humped camel by his side. She called him Frank, the chap. We spent the better half of the next 4 days traveling sand dunes and hard winds. On 2 occasions, I thought I'd be left behind. However, Frank lifted me on the camel after cooling my parched lips with the little water that we had left. On the 4th day, we reached a long, quiet oasis, and I dived for rich, deep water, ignoring groups of 2-headed lizards and other assorted creatures. Within hours, I was awakened by the woman in the long, flowing gown, her index finger pressed to her lips. We were besieged by a band of raiders. The 3 of us were captured trying to escape out the backside of the oasis and held prisoner for, as near as I could calculate, 8 days. I must have passed out from the lack of food because I don't recall how I got on board an old freight boat. We were headed down the thick brown waters of the wide river with thick jungle on both sides. It was just her and I again. Somehow we had escaped. Frank again, slipping me on board this stinky ship before he caught a 6 arrows in the back. We drifted for days, most of the time in thick fog and torrential rain. We talked about our pasts and our futures if we ever got out of this mess. I'd lost all track of time, but one morning I woke up to the melody of birds and a streak of sunlight across the window of my room below deck. A note lay beside my head on the pillow. I stuck it in my shirt pocket and climbed the stairs, grabbed a tin cup of coffee, and sat on the bow to read the note. She was gone. Apparently on a small fishing boat passing the other way. She simply wrote, "Unfinished business. You'll understand." Well, here I am, a few years later, a few years older. I'm romancing another beautiful dusk in the mountains on the porch of an old familiar cabin. There is no chair this time. It was replaced by a note. She simply wrote, "Love is a rare opportunity, and when that love is somehow parted, it's something deep down inside that wants just a reminder, a slice of memory, a possession." I thought you might want to know why I came for Frank's favorite chair. Now you understand. There is no such thing as dusk in the city.